If you're new to my channel, you probably don't know yet that I've rated Alphabet stock as my top stock to buy in 2024. So now that you know, I've rated this stock as the top of my list. I have a list of top 24 stocks to buy in 2024, and Alphabet is on the top of that list. So just to describe how bullish I am on Alphabet stock for 2024. That being said, I've had a lot of questions asking where I think Alphabet stock could end up by the end of the year. So not only do investors want to know about Alphabet and where it ranks on my list of stocks to buy, but the actual price target for Alphabet stock. So that's what I'll do in this video. I'll provide a price target, an estimate of where I think Alphabet stock ends up in 2024.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/Parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now.
All right, to make this prediction, I'm going to need several numbers, starting with the stock price. Currently, Alphabet stock is trading at $148 per share. I'm going to need this to make my prediction of where I think it will end up in 2024. Also, I need to get Alphabet's earnings per share estimate for 2024. And according to Wall Street, they think that Alphabet's earnings per share will come in at $6.62 in 2024. That's for the year that ends December 2024. Remember, this is an estimate from Wall Street analysts of where they forecast Alphabet's earnings per share to be in 2024. This is not certain. This is not 100% where its earnings per share are going to come in, but it's just their best estimates of where they think earnings per share will be. I also need Alphabet's price to earnings ratio, and according to this metric, Alphabet is trading at a price to earnings of 28.54. You can also see that this is about average of its valuation going back in the last decade. The price has been lower briefly, but for the most part, this is around where Alphabet stock price has traded. There was moments where it was higher, there was moments where it was much higher, and there was some moments where it was a little bit lower. But for the most part, this is about the range where Alphabet stock price has traded for according to the price to earnings ratio. So now that we have those numbers, let's go ahead and make our scenarios for where we think Alphabet stock price could be. So if the company delivers the $6.62 earnings per share that I got from this estimate here, and the valuation stays at 28.5 price to earnings that I got from this estimate here, then Alphabet's stock price could be $188.67. However, there are other scenarios. What if the price to earnings increases to 32 and the earnings per share comes in at 662? In that scenario, its stock price could rise to $211. But what if things don't go as well? What if Alphabet's stock price valuation falls to 25? Well, in that case, its stock price could fall to $165 per share. That would not be as much of an increase from where it is now, but still about a 10% increase. So even in this scenario, where the price to earnings falls, its valuation is still expected to increase in 2024. Now, if its valuation falls considerably down to a price to earnings of 20, its stock price could fall to 132, a scenario which I think is highly unlikely. Still, in that worst case scenario, the stock price would be down from 148 to 132, a roughly 10% decrease. So not a terrible outcome for Alphabet stock. Now, for Alphabet stock, the big key is going to be the earnings per share. For some other companies that you've seen me do the stock price prediction for 2024, the bigger key is the change in the price to earnings ratio. But for Alphabet, I think the bigger key is the earnings per share. I think if earnings per share comes in where Wall Street expects, or even around where Wall Street expects, the stock price is going to be higher by the end of the year, and meaningfully so. Now, if you were to ask me what's my best guess for where I think Alphabet stock price ends 2024, I would say in the upper end of this range here. I would say between $185 per share and $195 per share. So this is I expect the price to earnings to stay roughly the same at 28.5 because look, if we look back the last decade, look at the price to earnings. It's been around this level, right? You look back, I mean, it's fluctuated down briefly and another moments briefly, but for the most part, it's been around this level if we draw a line through, right? It could even go higher. It's been much higher, but I'm not predicting that the price to earnings goes higher. I'm just predicting that it stays roughly the same. And if it stays roughly the same and the company delivers the earnings per share that Wall Street has forecast the company to deliver, then the stock price could end up in the high 180s, maybe low 190s, which would be a nice increase from 148. If the stock price ends up at 190, that would be a $40 increase from 148, which would be a more than 25% rate of return in 1 year for a stock that's not all that risky. Remember, I like to think of my investments on a risk versus reward scale. And so I'm expecting a return roughly around the 25% range for a company that's not all that risky. So for that reason, I have Alphabet stock rated as one of my top stocks to buy. Not just because I expect these phenomenal returns from Alphabet, but I expect solid returns from Alphabet on a lower risk profile than is usual for a company that is expected to return these types of rates of return. So I hope that gets across that the risk is also critically important. The risk is critically important when making an investment decision, because when you're forecasting out, when you're making investments, look, just for this calculation, you've seen me use how many estimates and assumptions to make this prediction. There's a lot that can go wrong with this. And so you don't want your worst case scenario to be all that bad. Even if you get things wrong, you want to be wrong, but not lose too much money when you're wrong. But if you're right, you get a nice rate of return if you're right. That's sort of my investment philosophy here. And you're getting that to a great degree with Alphabet stock. You're getting a solid expected return with a lower than average risk profile for a company that's expected to give you this kind of rate of return. So there you have it. That's my stock price prediction for Alphabet in 2024. Did you know that over 90% of the people that watch my channel are not subscribed? It'll really help support my channel if you hit that subscribe button. And oh, by the way, one of the benefits of being subscribed is that I take requests from subscribers more often than I do from non-subscribers. So if you prefer that benefit, please subscribe to the channel.